going online, even like grocery store. We talk about that. Everybody's ordering their food on Instacart, DoorDash, Uber. Did y'all see Grubhub is now delivering food with like, what is it? Little robots. They were delivering their food. Everybody since COVID has gone technical. And so every industry is looking to see how can we improve our current industry with technology. Okay, so of course, notaries can do the same thing. So notaries now, but before COVID, we're pretty much doing in-person everything. And now we're going RON. Okay, so let's talk about what RON actually is and how it's going to affect you. Now, let me clear this up. There are 3 kinds of e-notarizations. Let me make sure I'm not going too far ahead of myself. Hold on, let me see. This is kind of what I was just talking about. Yeah, so there's 3 types of e-notarizations, okay? There's in-person. You typically will see it IPEN, okay? In-person e-notarizations, remote ink notarizations, and remote online notarizations. So there's 3 kinds. There's in-person e-notarizations, RIN, and RON, okay? Now, in-person is what you can do in California, for example. Now, you can do it in a lot of other states, but in California right now, you can only do in-person e-notarizations. And that is where the signer is physically in front of you. They are physically presenting yourself in front of you. Hey, Amy. So Amy had my largest day ever, 11 RON closings. Let's get it. I love it. They physically present themselves in front of you. The document is still on an electronic software of some kind, right? Whether that's Doc Verify or Secure Signings or whatever you're going to use. They still click to sign, and then you click to sign and notarize. So the person is still physically presenting themselves to you, okay? Now, when it comes to RIN, remote ink notarization, so a lot of states still have a wet signature requirement. And what that means is exactly how it sounds. The document has to have a wet ink signature, right? And so that means that you can have that remote person. So that person is not where you are, right? They're not where you are. They're away from you, okay? Wherever they are. And you're on a video session, but they're ink signing their documents. And typically they'll just scan it, send it to you. You ink sign it, and then that's how it's done. But it's still done over a video session. That's common in a few states. A lot of states, when COVID hit, went RIN first because they weren't prepared to go RON. But now more states are going. I mean, most all states are not. Let me clear that up. There are a few states that still do not have RON, like California that has pending legislation. I think they're going to start in 2023, as long as the pending legislation goes through. South Carolina still doesn't have it, but I think they have pending legislation. And then Georgia doesn't have it. I have to see who else doesn't have it, but that's in it. Well, Georgia has it, but they have a stipulation that you have to operate under attorney supervision. So yeah, there's that. It's kind of like a kind of fork in the road or a wrench in the road or something like that. Okay, so, and then you have RON. So RON is a remote online notarization, okay? Remote online notarization is completely online, okay? That is where the signer is remote, wherever they are, okay? And then you are wherever you are, as long as you're in your commission state. We'll talk about that in a second. And you guys join on a video platform, okay? Do not use not Facebook. Don't use Facebook either. Zoom or like FaceTime or what's another one? Skype, things like that. You want to use platforms that are approved by your state, but that have the identity verifying qualifications to make sure. Do you have water? What do you mean? Can you hear what you? Tamika, don't throw me off. Tamika's one of my babies, and I'm so Confucian. But what was I saying? Now you done threw me off. It's gonna come back to me. I lost my train of thought. I did lose my train of thought. What was I gonna tell y'all? Somebody help me. What was I talking about? I was talking about remote online notarizations. Okay, yeah, you gotta be on the platform. Y'all don't laugh. I've been working all day. Okay, thank you. T is always here for me. Okay. So yeah, you don't want to use Zoom. You don't want to use any of those platforms. You want to use a platform that actually has identity verifying abilities. Okay, so where they can do KBAs or other identity credentialing, where they can make sure that the person that's as best as possible, the person that's presenting themselves are actually who they say they are. Okay, so yes, don't do it on Facebook. That's Facebook Messenger. Don't do that. Okay, do it on a platform that is actually a legit platform. Okay, let me get to the next screen. Hold on. And then I'll hit some of your questions in a second. So this kind of just breaks down the different types we're just talking about. Let me get ahead. So this, I kind of want to touch on protecting your commission. And this, I want to touch on for a second. And I say this because a lot of times, especially now, I don't know if you've seen it, Amy. I know I've seen it. People that are suspect, okay, that are asking you to notarize documents that you really shouldn't be notarizing. They don't have the credentials to actually get the document notarized, or they may say, oh, I have I lost my ID, and usually what they typically will say is, oh, I don't have the ID, or whatever the case is, or this, that, and the third, but I can pay you this amount of money to get it done, right? So I've seen it. I've been offered money to do things that, no, we're not going to do that. It's not worth it, especially there was a story that I saw. I think it was in one of those Estate West. I mean, you might have seen it, where someone did that, and I think they did a power of attorney, and that someone sold the person's house. It was a whole little mess situation, but it was done via e-notary that did it. And so just be mindful that use the platform that can verify IDs, and just be wary. Same way when you do in-person notarizations, when stuff don't look right. Some ain't too right about the situation. Just be careful. Use your wisdom. Don't feel like you have to do it. And then also, if you are offered more money to do something, typically when that happens, it's because it really shouldn't be happening. But they kind of just want to, I bet you I can get them to do this. And that's something that a lot of people have been talking about when it comes to ROM, that they do expect to see more fraud happening and more like scams and things like that. Just try to make sure you're doing your due diligence, what you're supposed to do, so you can avoid being caught up in that web. Okay. Signing out the person on the doc signer won't. Yeah. See, people out here, they trying to get over. Don't get caught up. Don't get caught up. Okay. So and the other thing with that too, make sure you know the laws for your state. Okay. So different states have different laws. Okay. Don't go on Facebook groups and say, oh, well, this person said I can do this, or this person that can do that. You need to read your handbook for your state. Okay, you need to know what your state says you can do, so that way you're not getting, caught out there doing things that you don't need to be doing. Wait, I get more calls for scams for in-person than ROM. Okay, really? I Notarize is my platform. Yeah, I Notarize is my platform. All right, what type of documents are you referring to that we shouldn't notarize? So it depends on your state, but a lot of states, I don't like saying all, because there's always someone like, well, that doesn't work in my state. And so I just say a lot of states don't want you to do power of attorneys and wills. And there's some states that I've seen that want you to do deeds. So it depends on your state, so you know what you need to do and what you shouldn't be doing. I typically tend to stay away from power of attorneys and wills anyway, but it's personal. I mean, just because I don't want to be involved. Right now, with that being said, check with your state to see what you can do and what you can't do. Okay. Also, like in Virginia, we can't notarize. We cannot e-notarize. What is it called? It's coming back to me in a second. The actual notary application. So when someone is applying to become a notary, and in Virginia, we have to have the application notarized. It's not allowed to be e-notarized. Okay, so that's one, and that's why you have to know what the law says for your state. So like if you're in Virginia, now you know, if you get a call to get a notary application notarized, it cannot be e-notarized. Okay, something else just to know. Okay, all right, so let's keep going, and then I promise I'll hit some of your questions. Okay, let's do this thing. All right, so let's talk. Where's my pictures? My pictures didn't come up. Okay, so I'm not going to go too big into how to identify signers because it gets kind of in depth when you look at that. But there's a lot of ways to identify signers when you're on a e-notary platform. You have KBAs, which is knowledge-based authentication, ID verifications, visual verification, and witness verification. Now, that being said, that also varies by state. So some states will say all you need is a KBA. Some states will say, well, you need KBA and the ID verification. Some states do credible witnesses, where you have someone that can attest to the person that is in my audio. Can you guys hear me? If for some reason, let me know if I'm clear. If everybody says I'm clear, then it may not be mine, and you want to hit reconnect at the top. So at the top of your screen, there should be a button that says reconnect. If it ever starts breaking up or gets choppy, hit reconnect, or if you get a black screen, hit reconnect, and you should be able to come back into the session perfectly fine, and it should be better. Okay, everybody good with me? Yeah, love it. Okay, so with that being, what was I saying? Credible witnesses. So yeah, so credible witnesses is where you have a person that's they're a credible witness to the person that's actually going to be signing the documents. Okay, and so some states allow for that, some states don't. Okay, I've seen it in Facebook groups. People say, oh, they don't have to have their ID, just get a credible witness. And they're telling people in different states, like, you need to know, just because you could do that, let's say in Virginia, you may not be able to do it in Montana, or maybe you can't do it in New York, or maybe you can't. I'm just using an example. You need to know what your specific state allows, especially when it comes to RON. Another thing is, so RON is fairly new as far as for most states, okay? That being said, y'all remember when Ron, Amy probably remembers this, when Ron first blew up with COVID, these states didn't know what they was doing. I mean, they had no idea. I was a state at first. I forgot what state it was because I kept a log. I forgot what state it was, but they were like, oh, you can notarize on Zoom and all these things. And they took it away and said, oh, never mind. Don't do it. It was like, basically people were just kind of throwing stuff on the wall and see what stuck because people didn't know. And so there were a lot of states that said, okay, let's just do emergency RONs. What happened was, with the COVID pandemic, it was, oh my God, how do we do it? And everybody was like doing an emergency authorization. And they were just like, okay, everybody just go do RON. And they didn't tell notaries how to do nothing. Okay, people were out here losing their mind. I'm telling you, because I seen it. People were out here notarizing stuff all over FaceTime. They weren't using, because you can actually complete notarizations incorrectly, of course. Like, you can do it on any kind of platform, really. And if people don't know how to check to make sure it's right, and have the digital certificate, because really people were doing without digital certificates. They were just doing anything because no one was telling people how to do it. And so now there are some states that still don't have what do you call it? Like laid out, this is how you do it. We want you to do this. These are the platforms you can use. Don't do this, don't do that. How many of you guys have looked at like your handbook, you see it hasn't been updated. There's nothing on your state website, but it just says, okay, go do RON. That's what I'm talking about. And so states are getting a lot better about, okay, what kind of platform? Should we use this platform? Should we use that platform? What can they notarize? What can they not notarize, right? What kind of ID are we taking? Are we accepting? What kind of ID are we not accepting? Right. So now they're starting to work through that, and you're starting to see more information come out. Now you're also starting to see more states require their notaries to go through a training to get the approval to be an e-notary. When RON first blew up, most states didn't have any kind of extra screening. They said, okay, if you're already a notary, go do RON. Right? There were a few states that had a training that, okay, do this training, pass this exam, a few. But now you're starting to see more states implementing a e-notary training to make sure you know how to do it. These are platforms you can use, things like that. So just double check with your state to make sure. And one thing I say too with RON are things are changing constantly. Okay, and so I would say as a rule of thumb, check with your notary commissioning office at least once a month. And just check their website, check the handbook, make sure it didn't change, make sure they haven't implemented something new. So that way you're not caught out there. Like I know in Virginia, they changed the handbook last year. I didn't see it probably until a couple months after, but they changed it to what you can charge for your fee, right? And so the handbook hadn't changed in forever, right? But now they changed it, like, okay. And so a lot of people, a lot of states are updating their handbooks, they're updating their laws about what's going on with Ron. So just, I would make it as a rule of thumb, what I decide to do for me, and I would recommend for you guys, is to check it at least once a month. Okay, check it at least once a month. Check your handbook, go to your state commissioning website and check it. And if you don't see the answer you're looking for, call them, email them. You know, and so one thing I also started to see was people are getting better. Okay. Sometimes people were calling their state commissioning office, and I swear I'm not lying. And they would get like the administrative person who answered the phone, and they would give them the completely wrong information. Right. And it would be like, and they would call, I would have students say, well, she told me this. No, that's not it. And I would tell them, I actually called like probably two or three state commissioning officers and say, well, that's not right. This is what it is, because people really didn't know. You got to think about it. It's brand spanking new. And so when it first started, people were getting the wrong information, even from their state commissioning offices. And so now that's why I say this industry is so new that everybody's trying to figure it out. Like there's no, this is how you do it, period. I mean, there's some basics and this is how you do it, but there's a lot of new regulations and trainings and, you know, things that are being implemented. So just make sure you're staying up to date with what's going on in your state, so you're not left looking crazy or doing that that's not supposed to happen. Okay, so let's go over some do's and don'ts really quick. So do read and reread your state's handbook. We talked about this. And then also with that is to do your due diligence and research your industry. Okay. And so on that note, of course, you can take trainings. I highly recommend doing a training for eNotary. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. And I always say, yeah, I did a run on Instagram. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? And I was showing you guys, and you guys who's on that, right? Anybody remember that Instagram video? How many of you guys were on there with me? And it took longer, but I told you guys it took so long because it was technical support. And that's one thing that I noticed in doing Ron. The actual notarization itself is not the problem. Like that takes like 2 seconds. It's the tech support. It's getting the person on the platform. It's getting them to pass the KBAs. It's getting them to the actual session itself. Like that. And that's one thing I say too. A lot of you guys, you know, how many of you guys don't really consider yourself to be tech savvy? I know. It's okay. If you're not tech savvy, put a 2 in the chat. If you say, listen, I am not a tech savvy person, honey, I know how to turn my computer on and get to my browser, and that's it. Okay. How many of you guys are really not the best tech savviness? Okay. This is me being painfully honest. You need to learn it. Okay. The bulk of what I feel like the majority of, now sometimes you'll get somebody, and I don't like to say ages. People like y'all like to come for me when I start throwing ages out there. Like, ma'am, I'm not old. I'm not calling you old. But sometimes you get people that, you know, are younger, okay, and they hop on. I say, hey, listen. I say, hey, they call me. Hey, you want to do a notarization? I want to get a document notarized. Awesome. I always say this. This is what I always say. You can use this. Awesome. You want to do it in person? You want to do an e-notary? Okay. And then usually the response I get is, what's e-notary? Right. And so I tell them what to do. I say, oh, you could do it right from your smartphone. Just email me the document you want notarized. Most people that are, you know, younger know that you can scan any document into a PDF. Right. So I don't have to tell them that. They know. If I say email it to me, they're like, oh, I got you. Say less. Right. And so I say, email it to me. We'll hop on a video session. I'll notarize it for you. You'll have it back in your email in like 2 minutes. And so they'll send it to me in 2 seconds. I'll send the link back. They'll hop on the session. They pass that KBA real fast. We're in the video. They click the sign. I click the sign. We're done. Right? No problem. Easy. And we're out of here. Now, there are some people that it takes a lot longer, okay, to get through e-notarization. I remember I had one client. It was an older gentleman, and he wanted to get a document e-notarized because he had COVID. He couldn't leave his house. I said, okay, I need you to email me the document. He did that. Boom. I think he had his wife or something send it to me. And so now we're getting, honey, I tell him, okay, I'm on the session. I'm on the computer. Did you get my link? Okay, I got it. So he clicks the link. I was using Doc Verify. He clicks the link and he's like, okay, it's asking me to turn my webcam on. I said, okay, turn it on. He said, I don't have a webcam. I said, are you sure? And he was like, I mean, I don't think I do. I said, okay, look at your laptop. Do you see a small hole at the top? Like it looks like a little tiny like camera, like a little dot. He said, yeah. I said, okay, good. You got a webcam. He said, okay, how I turn it on? I said, okay. Usually you're prompted to, like when you try to open a camera session, it'll like a little box will pop up on your browser and it'll say allow microphone or allow video access. Do you see that? He said, no. I said, okay, you're in the URL. You don't see that. Do you see a little camera button in your URL? Sometimes you'll see that in the URL. Do you see that? No. Okay. What kind of laptop do you have, sir? I got a Mac. Okay, cool. And I have a Mac. So I started walking him through how to get there. Nothing on my screen that I was describing him could he see. Okay. And after probably about 10 minutes, I said, sir, what year is your Mac? Honey, it was so old, I forgot. It was at least like 12, 13 years old. I said, well, that explains it. Okay. I said, okay, I don't know how to use that Mac that you have, right? I said, do you have a smartphone? And he said, my wife has a smartphone, right? I said, okay, so we get the wife. The wife comes, she logs into it. We get it on the camera. That was on, but I was dealing with him for probably about, before we even got on the session, probably about 30 minutes, just trying to get him to be able to turn on his webcam and then turn on his audio. And then he did get with the KBA, but you have to be mindful of that. I have a little rule of thumb I do with KBAs too, but it took a while. And then when we got in, you know, I have to say, okay, do you see this? Where am I looking? Okay, look, hold on, slow down. Do you see the form you sent me? Yes. Okay. In a few seconds, you should see a signature box where you would normally sign. Do you see it? Yes. Great. Click it. Then they say, oh, I can't click it. Okay. I'm going to refresh on my side. Don't do nothing. Okay. This is what I'm talking about. This is what we're doing. Then he clicks it. Okay, I got it. Okay. Don't touch anything. Okay. And so this is that's why I can honestly say it's a lot of tech support, right? And so it's like walking people through. And sometimes people say, well, I can't, this is not working, or I don't see your screen, or I can't get in. Another thing you might have is KBAs, right? So, and Amy was talking about this. We had our Launch Ron event. She was talking about how sometimes it's really hard for people to pass KBAs. I've had people do this. So my rule of thumb, it doesn't always work, but it definitely helps the process. Okay, when I am having somebody go through a KBA, before they even attempt, I say, make sure you type in what is on your driver's license exactly. Okay. Do this. Okay. Because people will say, well, the driver's is wrong, or my name is wrong. It doesn't matter. That's what DMV has. Okay. You take that up with DMV. But for today, you are who your ID says you are. Okay. And so you have to say that, because people will say, oh, that's not my address anymore. I moved. I need to update my address. No. I need what can be verified. If you move and you did not update your address, DMV does not know. We cannot verify who you are. Okay. So rule of thumb I always say is put your information in exactly the way it reads on your ID. If you don't do that, people do not do it. I don't know. Amy, have you seen this? If you don't tell them, honey, they will put, well, that's not my name. Actually, I was remarried. Well, ma'am, did you update the state? Is the state no? Well, then I need to know what the state has for you. Okay. Otherwise, they gonna put anything. And it's like, well, I didn't update it yet. Well, if you didn't update it yet, ma'am, then it's not going to catch it in the system. So before they even get to it, put it exactly as it says. Okay, that's the first thing I say. The next thing I say, if for some reason you still fail that KBA, okay, don't do it again. Call me. Okay, because in most states, I don't want to say all, I don't like saying all. In most states, you can only fail twice. Then you can't do it that day. Okay, so I say, if you fail the KBA, call me. don't try to do it again, because on my, I don't know if all platforms do this, but I use Doc Verify, and on Doc Verify, it'll tell you why they failed. Okay. And so then I can try to troubleshoot and say, okay, this is why, this is what happened, whatever the case is. And one thing was really, I had one lady who, it was kind of early when I started doing Ron's, and she couldn't pass the KBA because she couldn't beat the time. Okay. And so it is time. I think it's like 2 minutes or something like that. You have to, I forgot, I think it's 2 minutes. Correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, that you have to complete the KBA. And she was an older lady. And so she went through it one time, and she called me and she was like, the questions went away too fast. And they only asked you 5 questions, but she needed more than 2 minutes to be able to read and correctly think and then answer each question. And so it timed out on her. And the second time I said, okay, because it's not like when you do it again, it's not going to give you the same question. So it's not like you could do it again and at least you had the first 2 answered. No, right? You have to get a whole new question. And so before I did it, I asked her, do you have any friends or any family that's nearby, that's in your house for you, that could probably help read you the question so you can, get it faster? She didn't have anybody. So I said, the only thing I can do is you can try it again. Otherwise, we can do it in person. That's what I offered her. I said, if you can't get it done, I have on-time notary. I can send a notary to you, and they can just have somebody come to you. So we end up doing that because she didn't pass it the second time. So that's another thing that can happen. It's a lot of issues that can go wrong with the KBA, but usually it's people not typing in the IDs right and not answering the KBAs right. Okay. And so, yeah, you can fail it twice, then you can't do it that day. Okay. So you want to just make sure that you're doing your due diligence and researching your industry. Okay. Really take time to understand. Ron is new. It's not new as in it was around a long time ago, but it's new as in it's exploding now. Okay. I didn't know that, Amy. We're gonna have to talk. Yeah. So do keep track of your profitability. Which may not be as simple as working as a traditional notary. Now, this is a lot. Okay. We had a notary boot camp. What was that? Monday through Wednesday this week. And how many of you guys were in the notary boot camp? And we were going over different e-notary platforms, and we were talking about, just put like a 2 in the chat so we know that you were at the notary boot camp. And so the third day we covered Ron, and we were going over the different fees associated with Ron. Okay. And so how many of you guys thought it was really confusing? That is the number one thing that students that are in notary to notary tell me when it comes to doing Ron, that the fees are confusing. Okay. So most platforms can have a plethora of fees, right? You can have a notary seal fee, which means every time you apply your seal to a document, you get a fee. There could be a single page fee. So if you just do one page or a package page, like you can be charged for, having multiple pages. There's a video storage fee. There's a KBA fee, ID credentialing fee. There's a, what other fees did we see? And let's look at different platforms. Different platforms have different fees, right? Journal entry fees, like there's a number of different fees. And so and then like some platforms just have fees for completing the notarization. So it could be just a fee for actually e-notarizing, right? And so when it comes to doing it on the independent side, so there's dependent and independent, okay? Text fee, that's another one. Dependent platforms are what I call platforms that give you work, okay? So platforms that give you work are typically free. You sign up with them, you upload your credentials, they approve you, and then they do all the marketing, they do all the client acquisition, and then they will give you notarizations to complete, okay? Independent platforms are platforms that you pay to use. It's a technology platform. You are paying to use the software, okay? But you're doing all the marketing, all the client acquisition, all the invoicing, okay? And then you're bringing those clients to that technology platform to complete your notarizations. Independent has all the fees, okay? Now, independent also can provide you with more money. When you work with dependent platforms, they typically have the rates already set, and they can be typically lower than what you would be able to charge if you did it by yourself. But that's because they're doing all the heavy labor. Okay, they're getting the clients. They're doing the invoicing. They're doing the marketing. They're doing all the heavy labor. All you're doing is hopping on a video session and saying, hello, guys, and then click to sign, click to notarize, and you're out of there, right? So that's why they're keeping the both. Then, yes, there are hybrid platforms that do both. So hybrid platforms like, I think Cyberize is a hybrid platform, if I'm not mistaken. Notarize is a hybrid platform in some states. iNotarize will be a hybrid platform. And so that means you can sign up on the platform and you can get clients, and then you can sign up on the platform and use them for your own clients. Now, this is where it gets kind of confusing because people, they get excited. And I'm not here to deter you from doing eNotary. I want you to understand it, okay? A lot of people want, oh my gosh, and it breaks my little heart, baby. Okay, it's a lot of things that notaries are doing wrong. They get so excited. They say, oh, I'm going to be a Ron. Yeah, score. And they go out and pay for multiple independent platforms. Don't do that. You only need one paid platform. So what you need to do is research and say, what platform do I like? What fee structure do I like? If your state only allows you to use certain vendors for platforms, make sure that they're a platform that you can use in your state. Some states don't care what platform you use. Some states say you can only use these. Okay, you only need one paid platform. Okay, now, dependent platforms that give you work, you can sign as much as you want. They're free. And let's say one is slow, but one is picking up. It's like people who do like Uber and DoorDash and Grubhub. How many of you guys know people who have like all three on at one time? Because you're not, you're waiting for something to come through. So if you want to do more than one dependent, it's not costing you anything. You can do that. You only need one paid platform. Okay. But do your research before you go to a paid platform, because you don't want to, one, pay for a platform that you can't use in your state, and you want to make sure that's one you can be profitable with. Okay, and so those fees that we were talking about, they do add up. And if you don't calculate it the right way, and then let's say you charge someone $20 to do a notarization, right? But it ended up costing you $19. You made $1. It's not really worth it. But if you didn't know that it was going to cost you $19, you wouldn't know. And sometimes it may cost you more and you didn't charge enough. And so now you're in the hole because you don't understand the fee structure that platform was presenting. You see what I'm saying? So what I would recommend doing is to get the fee. Most of the platforms have their fees listed somewhere. Get the fees and then add it up, and then have yourself a fee schedule. So like where you can say, okay, if it's one document, one signer, this is my rate. If it's 2 documents, 2 signers, and then do that number. So okay, if it's 2 documents with a KBA and 2 signers, you can go to their fee schedule and you can plug in how much each would charge. So that way you can see your numbers in advance. And then when people call you, you already know how much the platform is going to charge you. So you can make sure you charge enough to cover the technology fee and also have a profit. Okay. Does that make sense? I hope so. It could be a little tricky. It can be a little tricky. Just take your time and do your research. Also in my book, The Ultimate Ron Guide, there's a section in there that has the questions. It's a questionnaire that it goes through that is like questions you should ask each platform. Are you able to review for each platform so you can make sure that it's one that you want to work with? Okay, so make sure if it's frozen, anybody else say it's frozen? If it's frozen on your side, hit reconnect. I think we're good. It looks good on my side. Let me know. Let me know, darling. Okay. The other thing is don't complete e-notarizations when you're not physically in your state. I know. In our perfect world, if we could just travel the world and do e-notarizations, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Unfortunately, darling, that's not the way that works. You do need to be in your commission state, okay? So if you're commissioned in your state, you have to be there. And some of you guys might say, well, how will they know? How will they know? How will they know? They'll never know. How many of you guys saw that TikTok video? How would they know? How would they? Your digital certificate. That's how. Okay. So your digital certificate does track your actual location. And so it will show where you are when notarization is complete. Also, you got to show me that. You got to tell me about that. But your digital certificate does track your actual location. So it shows, and then when you're completing an e-notarization, you want to put your city and state that you're actually in. That's what people do wrong. They put where the signer is. So like when you're in person, remember when you're in person and you have your notarial section, you put your city and state that you physically are in. You do the same thing for Ron. So wherever you are is where you put your location. Does that make sense? I love it. Okay. All right. So the other thing is you do not want to use a Chromebook. Okay. So a Chromebook is not compatible with the digital cert. I see a lot of questions. Okay, I'm going to take it till 7 o'clock and then we'll do questions. Okay. So don't use a Chromebook. It's not compatible with a digital certificate. And don't take what you learn in online groups to be golden. Okay. It's not always golden, darling. All right. So the 4 things that you're going to need to operate as a notary, as a e-notary is your e-notary seal, your digital certificate, approval from your state if your state has an application process. If your state does not have one, then don't worry about it. And then you want to find yourself a qualified, y'all funny. You want to find yourself a qualified e-notary platform, okay? So not FaceTime. Okay, even though I love my Apple. I love my Apple. Team Apple in the building. So you want to use, you need 4 things: e-notary seal, digital cert, approval from your state, and then a qualified e-notary platform. Okay, everybody good with that? Okay. Oh, that's not for you. That's for my students. All right, so let's hit some questions really quick. Okay, I think I did good. I got to my 7 o'clock, but I know I have a lot of questions. Okay, can be commissioned for 3 states. You can be multiple commissioned. Yeah. So you can be, as long as, so you can apply for a commission in a different state. You just have to meet the requirements for that state. Okay. Look at you. Thanks, Team Apple. All right. So let's hit some questions. Let's hit some questions. Okay. Remind me what KBA means. It's a knowledge-based authentication. Okay. So that's basically like, like when you apply for a credit card or a bank account and it asks you, like, right after you apply, it'll say, like, it'll ask you like 5 questions. And it'll say something like, which one of these streets are you associated with? Or you have a car payment with which one of these companies? Or which one of these people do you know? Something like that, right? That typically only you really would know, typically. Or like you or your spouse would know. I know my husband's questions. Like, I know everything about your life, right? But typically it's only questions that you would know, right? Or it'll say like, one I saw was, what did it ask me? What's the, no, you know what always gets me? Side note, squirrel. When I do KB, like if I apply for a credit card or whatever, they ask me questions. And the one that I'm always so nervous about is when it says, which one of these phone numbers are yours? I've gotten that wrong before because now I've had the same phone number that I have now for a couple years, but I've had so many numbers in my life, I couldn't tell you, especially, when you're in college and you change your number every month or every couple months. I've had so many phone numbers that question usually trips me up because I don't remember my phone numbers. I've had so many that I don't know. Like I know the one I have now and the one I had before this one. That's it. Any other phone number outside of that, I don't know. Okay. And so that's one that sometimes when they ask me that, I just don't get right because I don't know. Okay. All right. So let's see. What other question? Where do you find KBA rules and regulations for your state? Yeah, typically you would look for your commissioning office. If you don't see it, I would reach out to them. Why my chat's disappearing? Darling, hold on. What's happening? I would reach out to them and they should be able to help you with your state specific thing. Okay, I don't know what's going on my chat. Let me see if I can. move this. Okay. All right. How much profit can you expect? It again depends on your state. It depends on if your state, what your state allows you to charge. If your state puts a limitation on how much you can charge for technology fee, if you can charge technology fee, if you're allowed to charge, if your state doesn't put a limitation on it, then shoot your shot, go for what you know, right? But don't go crazy, okay? Don't go crazy. Make sure that you're within reason. But it really depends on your state, okay? We have to pay for platforms. Wait. I don't understand your question, Cassandra. We have to pay for a platform. You have to pay for independent platforms. So platforms that you're using to conduct notarizations for your own clients, you pay for, okay? If you're going to a platform to work for them, typically you don't pay for them. But yeah, I always recommend people who are just getting into it to go to dependent platforms first, so you can get your feet wet, so you can understand it and do some, understand the industry, understand, how to complete them, things like that. Okay. What companies are dependent, independent, and hybrid? So, and they're updating all the time. But Doc Verify, I know, is an independent. They don't give you work. They used to have a directory. I think they still have a directory where you can list your. They do have a directory. You can list your notary business to be found. Notary Cam is a dependent, so they give you work. Safe Docs is a hybrid. Let me think. And then the other thing too, guys, some platforms are not designed for independent notaries. And that was getting people tripped up too. So some platforms are designed for title companies and or larger signing services. So even though your state will have them as an approved vendor, they will not allow you to use the platform as an individual notary, because it's more so designed for a large organization that's going to be sending out work. Like Nexus is typically, there's one that's like that. There's a couple of them that's not really designed for the independent notary. So when you go on there, if you reach out to them, they'll tell you. A lot of times they'll have it like, okay, this is not for a single notary show. This is for a title company, signing service, kind of large corporation or a large company.